Good morning to those from the United States. David Shackleton, thank you for being here. Indrani from Columbia University. Jain Oberoi, thank you for being here. He's from Jaipur, the chapter chairperson for the Niranjan Khatri is a war veteran, battle-scarred veteran on the waterfront from Bangalore, just now, who spent about 40 years in ITC. Many more here, and what I will do is this. Today we have the 11th Distinguished Lecture Series. We started this in January this year, and we've had some tremendously overwhelming response from leaders in the industry. The intent has been to try and see how every time we bring a very inspiring leader who can then, secure people's interest in various regions and have people move such solutions across borders, across regions, across states in the country. It was, I think, about a month and a half ago that it occurred to me that I must get this wonderful lady, Conley Eggert, who is the founder of something called the GlobalWaterWorks in the United States. She lives in Greater Chicago area. The time now must be for her about 7:45 or 8 a.m. And is that right, Mary? Yeah, about that time, I think there. And then she said, we both discussed this, and we said, look, there must be a way of your being able to communicate to a whole lot of people here in India. And this is a program which is not confined only to those who are participating at this hour. It goes on YouTube, and therefore there are many hundreds of people who watch this program even after it's done. So we told ourselves that we must request Mary to speak and then to see on what she wants to do, why her heart lies in India. What happened to her when she came here a year and a half ago? I think at the beginning of the COVID or just before COVID, she was here in Bangalore and other parts of India. And then to see how such constructs of institutions, corporates, technologists, research groups in the United States can join hands with those others here, waterpreneurs and water technologists in India, to see that this massive challenge that India has got on water is sort of taken on. We requested Gurmit Singh Arora, the president of the Indian Plumbing Association first, and then the vice chairperson, the national vice chairperson for the Indian Green Building Council also to join us. As a matter of fact, I think it was 2 months ago that it just happened that Gurmit was present. I requested him to speak on much the same concerns that Mary is going to speak about today, and Mary was also there in that session. Well, what can I say? There's only one sentence or two sentences that I'll offer before I invite Mary to speak. Post COP26, and of course, with the kind of massive interest among countries to work together with India. Denmark started this first and said water is our agenda, and they had a meeting, I think, about 2 weeks ago. Australia had a meeting even today on how they can have these shared sustainability futures that the two countries can create. The United States, another. South Africa is talking to India, I hear, on what they can do to collaborate with us. So what we are seeing is a sudden upsurge of interest in working in India. India is a very large market. We are talking of about $30 billion a year of such water solutions that can, grow for the next decade or so. That's, in Indian rupee terms, we are talking of 150,000 crores on only water solutions, another 150,000 crores on energy solutions, and a good 1/2 of that is again part of water solutions, because water is finally about energy, and water is also about good water management. The two words that we are seeing, I saw this very sharply when we heard this, when we saw the series of lectures at COP26. There was this world of governments and policymakers, all those anonymous people who drove finally those fine commas and word gaps in order to get to a resolution, which I think means nothing for the world, because 2050 or 2060 or 70 is way too far for us to understand and comprehend what these promises can mean. The second is that word of hapless, unfortunate citizens like all of us who are at the tough end of the stick, as many youngsters who spoke at Glasgow showed us. I will leave it there. Mary has a whole lot of exciting things to want to offer to us. Mary Conley Eggert, the floor is yours. Oh, you have to unmute.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hari and Payal. Such a pleasure to be here on the occasion of the 11th Distinguished Lecture Series with other distinguished guests, Professor Anupam and Gurmit. Pleasure to be here with you. And it has been, I think, about 3 months, Dr. Hari, since we met, because you have just accelerated all that GlobalWaterWorks is capable of doing. And it makes us so excited to talk about hands across India, because, I need to get the sharing opportunity. It looks like if you could allow me to share my screen, I will start to do that. It's what is really wonderful is that we talk about the opportunity to make a difference through water. And I know we're at the Green Sustainable Lecture Series, but really water is the underpinning of all of our smart cities, of our green capabilities, because when you save water, you save energy and you reduce carbon through the transport, and you just have a much more sustainable environment overall. And so I'm just going to start sharing here. So our view is that we could have hands across India and America, and that is what has been happening through a series of lectures that Dr. Hari has actually put on, these tech talks where we bridge India and America with solutions that address the efficiency we can have in water. And just a little bit of context, I set up GlobalWaterWorks was 6 years ago when we heard about the gap between the supply and demand of water, which was to occur in 2030, where 3 out of 5 people would have a glass of water, and 40% unfortunately would not across the globe due to scarcity issues. And when we visited India, I had the privilege 18 months ago to be there right before COVID, and it was just a stimulating experience. But basically all of the things we had envisioned you could do with water were suddenly possible, with atmospheric water all the way through to reuse. And as you know, with Chennai being avoiding net zero through rainwater capture and reuse. But Dr. Hari, you have a question.
Thank you sorry for interrupting you. It's just that Professor Anupam has to leave in the next 5-6 minutes. We had invited him to try and see if he will share some introductory remarks. Let's allow him, if you don't mind, we'll allow him some 3-4 minutes for him to, say what he wants to. And then you will continue from where you have left these introductory remarks. Over to you, Professor Anupam. Can you unmute and speak, please? Are you there? Yes, then you'll have to remind him if he's there, or she continues. Yeah? Ask to unmute. What do I do to ask to unmute?
I think Ms. Mary may continue, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, please. Go ahead.
So I will, to provide a little bit of context for how we got where we are with GlobalWaterWorks, I have a video which it gives you a sense of the context of water and what we can do today. And here it is. So what you saw there is pretty evident. For hundreds of years, we've been advocating for better water management, but it's only today with the analytics, with the robotics, with the data and metering that we're able to see exactly where our water is and what the resources are all throughout the water cycle, even harvesting water from the air, as we know India has been very proficient in doing. So before I proceed, did we have someone else who wanted to speak, Dr. Hari, or should I continue?
My thought is maybe in this first part, thank you for asking that question, extremely sensitive of you. What I thought you could do is maybe the next 7-8 minutes, go ahead with what you want to say. Then we will ask Gurmit to speak on what he thinks can be of value for this relationship that we are trying to build with America. And there are lots of good people out here who are participating, over 30 plus people just now. I'd like to see how you can then engage them with the rest of your conversation.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so the next 7-8 minutes, and then we'll meet, and then back to you.
Okay, great. So, while we entered the water sector 6 years ago, what we found was that everyone was meeting at different events and sort of what we would say is fishing, going and having one-off gatherings. And we thought it would be much more efficient if they could come together in a pool of fish with all of the like-minded people who wanted to do something about water and the people who had needs, finding the people with solutions. And so what we were fortunate to do is come together with the water and waste management team here in Chicago, who was actually constructing a conference in India to unite like-minded individuals, and those individuals have broadened our reach to the folks you see here now on the call, Dr. Hari and Dr. Nandakumar, who's with the International Center for Clean Water, and Apala Yandretti, and Water Son Chandra, who is implementing amazing solutions for the rural utilities. And helping hands across America and India has become much easier because of this digital connection that we have with Dr. Hari connecting the Tech Talks and the individuals across Chicago, lending expertise, but also learning from the amazing innovation that you have in India. And what we've been able to do with this ongoing collaboration is stay connected through a simple app that all of you are welcome to access, globalwaterworks.org, where we report back on the initiatives taking place. And we've been able to track and gather and share the history of water initiatives from Israel and Singapore through to California with their very innovative efforts to address the drought there, and to a group called the Smart Water Alliance Network, with that collaborates to bring all of the data together and has a movement now in India. And our goal for all of this is that we would be able to stay connected, see who's right near us, find the experts. If you go into the app, you can actually see the people who are right near you so that you can quickly collaborate. You can join groups, and you can tap into featured education and training. And all of this is free on globalwaterworks.org. But what it makes it all possible is the willingness of Gurmit and Nandakumar and folks like Dave Shackleton on the phone, who are able to share their expertise and help those who are looking for solutions find out about the processes that can actually treat water, restore lakes completely, provide efficiency with the smart metering. And Dr. Hari, we've been so impressed with your goal to save the Crow leaders across India and the progress that you have made connecting with apartments, connecting with citizens, and implementing solutions that are truly efficient and making a big difference for people. And it becomes more real as we are all right now on this phone call when we're able to connect and see each other and actually be inspired through the individual initiatives. And so that has been such an encouragement for us. We don't want to belabor our GlobalWaterWorks or suggest that everyone needs to join GlobalWaterWorks, but we do invite you, if you have something to lend and we can help promote your activities, it would be a great joy to do so in the community. And you can travel, you can become a GlobalWaterWorks ambassador if you desire, simply by taking a tour and creating your profile on the platform, and then agreeing to lead the change by inviting others to participate with you. But our goal is to enable you all to get answers and also to showcase the great talents and knowledge that we see happening in India, where we've just been very stimulated by the wonderful energy that you always show up with, Dr. Hari and everyone on this call, and that Dr. Prem Jain actually led us with the Green Building Initiative. So I just wanted to share that context, and then I would be happy to just talk through, Dr. Hari, some of the things that we are doing together with the WOW Action Forum. And you are back off mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. At this juncture, Gurmit, maybe you want to come in. And, in the ways that I had requested you earlier in the day, you might want to talk about the importance of what such a national effort can be, where we are not talking of governments, but we're trying to see what we can do with citizens, and how other countries can help to collaborate, much as, Mary from the United States is offering to do. Over to you, Gurmit.
Well, Dr. Hariharan, I wish you would share with us what you're eating, but anyway, see, I am sitting in the Indian Plumbing Association headquarters in New Delhi, and we are a body of 5,500 dedicated, determined members, and therefore certainly we are trying to make a difference where we can make India net zero on water. Now, what we have done is aligned with the IGBC. There are 70 green building councils all over the world. IGBC is the second largest green building council after USA. As far as green footprint is concerned, we have 6,387 green certified projects with 7.97 billion square feet. Now, IGBC has committed to go net zero on energy, waste, carbon, and water by 2050 for new buildings and 2030 for the existing buildings. Now, obviously, that's a very tall order. The Prime Minister of India at the COP26 committed that India will go net zero carbon by 2070, but I don't think we have that luxury of time to wait till 2070. So we have taken it on ourselves to go net zero by 2050, at least in buildings, because buildings contribute to 28% of the carbon footprint worldwide. And if you look at the materials used in buildings like cement, steel, and glass, they contribute to about 9 to 10%. So it's more than 1/3 of the contribution of carbon from buildings. So it's a tall order to make buildings net zero. Of course, people are working on electric vehicles, people are working on other modes of bringing down energy consumption and looking at how we can go towards renewable energy. We are already committed, 500 gigawatts India is committed, and obviously that requires a lot of money, but that's where we are. Now, as far as Indian Plumbing Association is concerned, we are aligning with the Indian Green Building Council to make sure that we go net zero on water. Net zero on water basically has 4 premises. The thing to really get scared is that 34% of India's population is only urbanized. Now, what happens if the rest of the 66% become urbanized and the water consumption goes up from 30 liters per head per day to 130 liters per head per day? We are in for some big crisis, because India has 17% of the world's population, but only 4% of its fresh water. We have sufficient water, But if it's polluted, if you have microplastics in the sea, obviously you cannot use that water for our consumption. If you look at the water footprint in US right now, it is 2,480 cubic meters per head per year. India only is at 980. So as India urbanizes, and if we move from 980 to 2,500 or 400, we have a crisis on hand. What we have done is that we have 4 pillars towards net zero water. The most important pillar is education and awareness. Because if you look at an American citizen or an Indian citizen, they really do not know what their water footprint is. As we know, virtual water requires a lot of water. There's a lot of water required for making products. A cell phone requires 2,500 liters, a t-shirt 1,500 liters. And these guys from the south, they make everything with rice, even the bread or everything is with rice, whereas we from the north make things, we eat things which are made by wheat. Even our bread is made by wheat. And so rice consumes 3,000 liters of water for 1 kilo to grow. Wheat is only 1,400 liters. If you look at a kilo of beef.
Gurmit, both cereals, wheat and rice, they're starch-based. They both consume the same 3 to 4 tons of water.
No.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. And now, if you're talking 1.5 tons of water, you're then talking of millets and pulses. Right. So let's be corrected.
Now
North or south, we consume the same quantity of water if we unfortunately eat rice and wheat. You do have to move away wheat. Gurmit, thanks to your weight, I think you should move away from rotis to millet rotis.
Anyway,
millet rotis.
So I was talking of water footprint. You can justify you having rice, no problem. 1 kg of chocolate requires 24,000 liters. So there are certain products, like beef. Beef requires 1,500 liters for a kg to produce. Now, this virtual footprint is very, very high. And therefore, we have to see how we can reduce water consumption. So
Gurmit, can I stop you? Sorry. Gurmit, can I stop you there since you got another 3-4 minutes and you have to leave too?
Yeah.
You see, all of this that say the IPA or you have got 5,000 members, but there are no citizens there. They're all industry members, right?
Right.
If I take IGBC, it's the same thing. We have got industry members there. It's completely B2B. Sometimes there are B2G dialogues, right? How do we, get such industry bodies to start working with these citizen-led groups like what Action Forum represents, the WOW group, or what Mary is trying to bring to India?
So what we are doing, Dr. Hariharan, I had a meeting with the Ministry of Housing this morning also. And on Monday, all the tap manufacturers have been called to Nirman Bhavan, the headquarters of the Ministry of Housing, where we are trying to mandate net zero. Now, of course, we can't mandate net zero immediately because you require a change. So the first thing we are doing, first premise, as I told you, is education and training. But the second premise is to use less water at source. And if you can use less water at source, you don't need to treat so much water, you don't need to discharge so much water. So what we are doing is trying to mandate, and I've sent this code to the Ministry of Housing today. This is called the Water Efficient India Code, where you can save 35% water on plumbing fixtures, sanitary ware, and clothes and dishwashers without compromising on the comfort of the user.
Your Monday meeting, is it possible for you to see if the government can mandate all manufacturers stopping the making of flush tanks that are not non-dual, not dual tanks?
We are first moving towards plumbing fixtures, because if you ask the government to do everything, it's not going to happen.
No.
So on Monday, all the plumbing fixtures, whether it's a Grohe, Kohler, Jaguar, they are all invited to the Ministry of Housing, and they're meeting the Joint Secretary D. Thara there, Madam D. Thara, to ensure that we mandate star ratings. And we already have a laboratory, IACMO laboratory, International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, USA. They have a lab in Bangalore to test water efficiency for sanitary ware, fixtures, clothes, and dishwashers. We already have a lab in India. Okay. Now,
it would also mean that every faucet manufacturer will produce only under 5.75 LPM.
Absolutely, this is going to be mandated, because I cannot go through individual municipalities which make separate laws in every state. Right. So the only way is to mandate it through the center, and the center realizes. Please understand, the center has only created a Jal Shakti. the water ministry only 2.5 years back, and they are already on the Jal Shakti Abhiyan 2 mission. They already completed the 1 mission where they want to supply 30 liters of water per head to the villages per capita per day. So we have a lot of codes. We are governed by more than 2,000 pages of codes. Okay. And we are going to make sure that everything is installed as per the codes and as per the water efficient product India code, so that at least we mandate star rating for plumbing fixtures. What we are telling them is that you need a bureau of water efficiency, like a bureau of energy efficiency. See, you are looking at energy saving because energy costs money. But what is the cost of not having water? It's much higher than not having energy. So we are looking at first plumbing fixture and then sanitary ware. And this morning only we had a meeting with them, and Monday they have a physical meeting. Today we had a meeting on the Zoom call. So that's what we are working on, sir.
So where do you see the synergy between the kind of effort that some of these public-spirited institutions from the United States or from Australia or from Denmark who are wanting to come to India, that you can forge from industry's front?
See, I find that we need to teach the Americans and the Europeans, because the water footprint in cubic meters per year per head in USA 2483, Greece 2389, Malaysia 2300, Italy 2300, Thailand 2200, India 980. So we really need to teach them about water footprint.
It will never happen like that because they come from water surplus countries. You know that.
Yeah.
And here you are only 1/10 of Africa, and you have the same population. There are 30 million square kilometers. And you know my story. China is at least 2.8 times India's size, and they're the same population. So my point is that we don't gain anything from asking others to see what they will have to do. But here is an imperative that you and I have to face for the next 20, 30. If there are people like Nivedita sitting there, by the time they get to my age, they have no water at all. So what is it that we can do in India and gain from the technology or methodology or whatever that we can secure as professional insights go? That also, what is it called? Associations like IPA or IGBC or many other industrial bodies can actually bring about. This is what I'm looking for.
What we need to gain from every lot of developed countries is not about saving water at source, but treating black and grey water. We are very weak. We are very, very weak in treating our sanitary waste. And at least 45% of our waste goes into our water systems untreated. So that's where we have to learn whether it's sewage treatment or phytolimit, whatever the technology is. Yeah. The fact is that we have to treat every bit of discharge. If Singapore can do it, we can do it.
Well, that's one area. I agree with you. The other is that we are about 750 million people, 2.5 times America's population, the United States population, who have no tap to get water from, right? What can we do, therefore, for point of use water treatment and availability? And where can the United States help us, or their water entrepreneurs help us?
Well, the government already, the Jal Shakti Abhiyan is to give tap, what they call Nal Se Jal Se. Okay, they want to give 30 liters of water per head to every villager. Now, when that happens, obviously, if you do not treat the waste, you're going to get into very large problems. Right now, we are not even giving them 30 liters. They go and get it from the water body, whichever is close to them. Okay, so water consumption is really going to go up, and unless we do not treat every drop of water, we are going to get into a very big crisis. Because if you even pollute your own water system, clean water system, fresh water system, where are you going to get the water from? Yeah, like in Bangalore, if you look at the water bodies, how many lakes do you have now? 40, 45? And you had more than 300 lakes at one time. Now you have to protect those lakes and make the people around them own those lakes. They must have a sense of ownership that this lake is mine, this lake. You go to Bhopal, it's a city of lakes, 15 lakes. You cannot throw a piece of paper in the lake. Forget about discharging sewage. Okay, because that lake provides you for the drinking water, for your fresh water. And that's what needs to be done in every city in India. You cannot allow any discharge to take place either from residences or from industries. And that is what we can learn from the US.
It's 6:31. I think your time is also, I mean, you would need to be leaving also, as you said.
Right.
Mary, he's talking of two different aspects. One is, what the government can do. And, well, the government can't actually, it's easier for us to give to the water user or the person who needs water a solution that the person can be helped into shaping destinies upon, right? On their own. This is one, which is why point of use filtration is a very big idea that can actually work in India. The other that he's talking about is at the manufacturer level, if the government can bring in the kind of thrust that, will enable the stopping of production or manufacture of those highly inefficient water fixtures, then I think that's another very good way to go, whether it's faucets or showers or whatever other systems.
All sanitary ware.
Gurmit, if you don't mind my saying this, on Monday when you meet them, like the Delhi government has done, which is not a BJP government anyway, if they can ban this blessed RO filtration systems by making them understand the enormous wastage that happens with reject water, what is called RO reject water.
Well, let me interrupt you, Dr. Hariharan. We have a Water Quality Association of India also.
Right.
And we already have a notification, which I have not shared with my board, where RO discharge is to be regulated.
Lovely.
The notification is already out. I will send it to you in the evening once I'm free. Okay, where the Central Pollution Board is mandated now to monitor the RO discharge. So all the RO players who are discharging 66% of the water have to come down to 30%, and that's going to be a very big saving.
Well, the technology is not prepared for such a change.
1 minute, Hari. Also, you have to realize, why do we need an RO? When I can drink water from the tap in the US or in Europe or in Singapore, why cannot I have the fresh water to drink from the tap?
Okay.
Now, when that will happen, when my water is clean and I do not discharge any bad, dirty water into my river, into my water systems.
At this point, Mary, I think you should take over and see how you want to respond to what he's asked and to continue the story as you go.
Well, I will end one thing by saying, I think John F. Kennedy said this, don't look at what the government can do.
Oh, those are platitudes. They don't work, Gurmit. It's all very nice to hear that.
Let us do our part, boss.
I know.
One small thing, Hari sir. I just wanted to add one small thing, if you allow me to.
Yes,
just 1
please.
minute, I think.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to add, like in high-rise buildings, there are structures or there are solutions to do the wastewater recycling and all.
Right.
But a lot of India resides in places which are not which do not have centralized water recycling systems. Say, for example, I don't live in a high-rise. So even if I want to recycle my water and if I want to, process it and then reuse it, I do not have systems which are actually very cost effective. There are solutions available, but they're going to cost me a lot. If I get a solution which is cost effective, I would definitely like to use that. So if government or even the NGOs would do something in this regard, that would definitely help.
Nivedita, you have to tell your national president, therefore, that when he meets them on Monday, he should not be asking for regulating of RO reject water. He's got to ban RO, because there isn't a system that we can devise which can monitor the monitoring of reject water. It's crazy. It won't happen because, governments can only stipulate policy. They can't actually go and see which company is violating and which home is, producing how much as reject water. Delhi showed the way clearly, and they said, look, you find your ways. And what did the RO industry do? They quickly came in and said that we will try and see if we can put in, carbon filters, activated carbon filters and pressure sand filters and so on. But they were still lobbying to see that RO filtration remains. We need to see that we move away from there. That's a very big direction. At the source, if we can cut this, I mean, all the big players are there, and the stakes are very high for these RO players. That is the reason the government also possibly will not want to listen to it. But, Gurmit, your points are taken well. Nivedita, you're right. You've also said one more important thing, Gurmit, Nivedita, by saying what you said. The control has to be in the hands of you and I. So filtration systems, for instance, you know what you do. You buy a Hema Malini system. But if we can give you a system at say 5% that cost, today you're buying from 10,000 to 26,000 rupees an RO filter. Now, if there are systems for you which can treat arsenic and fluoride, forget your cities. If you are a farmer, if you are an indigent landless labor across many districts, and you know how many districts we are, over 300 of them. What then happens is that we empower the water consumer into having something that they can use and not be fed by a market mechanism. You give me a filtration system that works for 10 years, I don't have to come to you if you are the government. You release me of my dependence on the government if I'm that kind of a poor, indigent farmer, right? So these are things that India has to work on. And industry, I appreciate a lot of the work that tirelessly people like Gurmit do. But then beyond that, if we can get into position things of the kind that Mary has been very inspiringly talking about over the last, maybe 15, 16 sessions that we've had, I think it'll help. And today's session, actually, Gurmit, I wish you are here to listen to her. She's got some amazing things that she can bring to the table. And I'm hoping, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who are listening to this conversation will gain from what Mary will offer as insights in the rest of the 40 minutes that we have got. Thanks, Gurmit, for being with us.
Thank you, Doctor. And bye, Mary. I'm sorry I have to leave. All
Please.
the best.
I'm particularly sorry because you have that great idea for a water efficiency czar, right? In India, we need it too in America.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Yes.
And I will hear your recorded presentation later.
Well said.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, both of you, Mr. Rao and Nivedita, for being here.
Thank you, sir. It was a delight.
Thank you.
Great. So I do have two other individuals on the call who it could be elevated to our panel, Frank Slavenik and also Dave Shackleton.
Okay.
The reason, so if
can you do that? Can you give them audio
background? Of course.
From
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Sorry.
Before diving in with Frank and Dave, I just wanted to respond to your question on what is happening in India and what we see as possible in the United States, because Water Sense, we do have a Environmental Protection Agency, many people know, and they have tried to have people be efficient, but to your point, Dr. Hari, they lack the incentive. We don't have a price for water that makes sense, that would cause them to really pay attention. It doesn't show up on their balance sheet. It also doesn't show up in their homes. Our utilities have done such a good job of bringing water in, disposing of waste, that literally the size of a small car shows up in our homes and is then returned back to the utilities at great expense for that transport, the energy that's not acknowledged. And that is creating a burden for our utilities, for our economy that goes unnoticed. And if we were able to awaken people and to create a burden or realize that burden, we could incentivize people to potentially save their water and their energy. But we've been most impressed with what's been happening with the World of Water Action Forum and your individual efforts to go out and reach the apartments and to set a very lofty goal in just 11 months of what you have said you would do, 1 million crow liters, and you're about a good chunk of the way there, but still engaging more people and raising up leaders. And that's why I want to turn it over to my other guests here to share a little bit. But Dr. Hari, maybe you could just speak to what you found successful with the World of Water Action Forum in engaging.
More than that, I will possibly ask you, what has been your experience having worked with on a terrain which represents about 1,800 tech suppliers or water technocrats, let us say, or technopreneurs. What has that meant to you and to initiatives that you're taking in cities that you've identified across the United States first? You talked about Santa Monica once, though it's a very, very small city of no more than 300 or 400,000 people, but in a region which is water scarce, California and all that. And the Colorado has been dwindling, so California has continued to have its challenges. And like Gurmit said, water users are not willing to to bring behavior change and so on. So what has been your experience in the US, and what do you believe you can bring to India in that context?
Okay. Wonderful. So Santa Monica, as Dr. Hari referenced, was on the leading end of saving the 25% that California needed to save in order to address the drought. It was about 10 years ago, and they implemented citizen outreach programs and had a whole range of toolkit, literally, of the efficient water fixtures, the outdoor irrigation, the reuse management, and then most importantly, communication and education. So incentivizing, but what really made it happen was the mandates across the state. Sadly, the incentive for people often doesn't hit until you realize you fines and penalties. And so that did end up working for California, but we'd like to think that there's something that could be done more efficiently. And WaterSense fixtures actually save 20% of the water automatically. So swapping those out, and you guys are doing those with the aerators, and that has really helped. And I have Frank on the call because you mentioned this idea of engaging all of the manufacturers, the innovators, because we can't engineer people out of their bad behaviors. So instead, we've been engineering better solutions. And Frank, perhaps you would want to chime in on just the nature of bringing in these technology experts to help make it possible for people to save and reuse water.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Thank you Hari for putting this together. This is a great forum. So yes, we have many. Right now, we've got about 130 technology companies across the span of solutions for water crisis and for water shortage. And these are all proven solutions, proven technologies, documented, installed around the globe. And these technology leaders are certainly very anxious to do what is necessary to provide their solutions in country. I mean, we've talked in prior meetings about even setting up manufacturing for some of these solutions in India, which certainly would be a long runway on the front end, but certainly a long-term and much greater solution all the way through on the back end. So we have the technology, we have the experts, we have the process, because each one of these solutions has been deployed, installed many times, and people are ready to go.
Yeah, and I think what's been very exciting about the tech talks you mentioned, Frank, is that the innovators in the States have been very receptive to the manufacturing in India, because we know your cost structure is a much more attractive if they were able to buy in India. So for example, filtration or chlorination treatment systems to get to that end use. The individual who needs water but doesn't have it on the grid is something that has been discussed. And what is also happening is with the treatment of water at the source, the literal lakes and streams that are contaminated, and being able to bring in solution providers who can address this through innovation. And Dave Shackleton is also here, and he is innovating around the world to treat harmful algae blooms and lakes that have died due to over nutrification. And Dave, maybe you could just speak about the value of addressing that source water and what that can mean to our totally renewable water supply.
Yeah. This is about the fourth or fifth one of these sessions that I've attended, and
we just lost you, Dave. Dave's got an interesting challenge in South Africa with on and off internet, on and off hour. So
maybe he'll come back. Yeah. So
he'll be back with us, but he's been
Uh,
very active. Go ahead.
Frank, are you there, David? Have you come back? No, he hasn't. Frank, you said that you find this forum to be exciting. Can you explain that? Why? What are those prospects that you think can be potentially utilized, not exploited, in order to see that India gains on the mitigates that we need for water, Frank?
I'm sorry, I was being joined as a panelist. Would you repeat that, Hari?
No, I was really saying that, you said earlier somewhere that it's an exciting platform or forum to be in. Why do you think it's exciting? And what do you think could be the potential for, things that you guys can do here in India?
Well, why it's exciting is because the people that certainly I've met and been involved with in these forums are doers. There's too much in water is talking about, studying, researching, looking at, and then trying to bring a solution, 10 years from now. Whereas, as you said earlier, Hari, we are in a similar age, in 10 or 20 years, there's places in the world that are not going to have water. There's places in the United States that won't have water. So the exciting thing about these forums is people are willing to do, and in the forums, in the conversations, come up with solutions. And no one's afraid of that.
Absolutely.
So that's what makes it exciting. I'd add one thing to what Mary was saying before, and Dave Shackleton hopefully will come on. But there's two elements. Certainly is what Dave is doing for water source and making sure that haves and you get purified. But there's another side of that, I think, which is very important, is purification at point of use, especially in a massive undertaking like India. Where we could do things at point of use, whether it's chlorination, whether it's filtering, whether it's whatever new technologies are out there, and these technologies are becoming very inexpensive, and very reasonable to the point of much less even cost than a cell phone today. So if you combine point of use with purification at source, the problem gets addressed from both ends, and it's not a hastened solution, but it's a much faster solution.
Right. Mary or Frank, one of you can take this. I'll leave it to you. When you look at it from where you are, for you, correct me if I'm wrong, it's mostly about emergency water relief and treatment systems that can therefore be brought in there in areas where there is inundation, floods, or not as something that is normal on an everyday scale. In India, for example, every day we have, it's not like about an emergency water relief kind of a need that we have got here. Every day we have got 700, 800 million people who need those little things that, let's say, a John B. Young is putting out, or who is that? Rodney Harrington is doing, for instance.
Yes.
So how do you see this difference between what you see in a few other countries, let us say, and what do you see as emergency water relief, and what do you see as point of use filtration systems that is a dire need every day? Dave, I know you're back here, but we'll come back to you after this. Yes, Mary, back to you.
Yeah.
Or Frank. Yeah.
Right. I think that's a very good point, where we are not in that urgent need, and where your audience it was very exciting and also very sad to see like the everyday need is there, even for the middle-class homeowner that needs to boil their water. They don't even have access to clean water at any level. So I think your question has to do with the drivers in India are much more robust. So every single homeowner could benefit from these better affordable filtration systems, or the chlorination could benefit. I think I saw Chandra just joined, and you have 600,000 villages that are not able to access water. And those people, you mentioned 31 million people die every year in India. How sad, 60% of those are children. And if that could be addressed with this simple chlorinator, a very easy solution to clean the water, I think you have the impact potential is huge in India. That's why we're very, very excited to be working.
Sure, Mary, now you can direct your question to David. He's here.
Yes. So David, thank you for joining back. I told everyone about your energy and your internet challenges. So maybe you could just talk about how the restoration of the watersheds and the lakes is enabling that source water to be clean. And before you join, David, I just want to mention our team, the professor who was visiting from MRICS, he said that the property values of India real estate was not there because the water wasn't there or it wasn't clean, so that people weren't selling that. And I know you have an impact there. Dave, over to you.
Yeah, well, the river, lake, dam, reservoir restoration is really all about making water renewable and reusable. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, in India, I think that's a very relevant issue because a lot of the cities, Bangalore is a good example, there's an abundance of water and lakes. You just can't use any of it. So remediating those lakes, and the problem you have with these eutrophic lakes is the nutrient processing is not happening. So the nutrients are accumulating and recycling to produce weeds and algae and so on. A wastewater treatment plant processes those nutrients and takes them out of the water. When you remediate a lake and you reestablish its ability to clear nutrients, you're effectively creating new water treatment capacity, wastewater treatment capacity, at a fraction of the cost of building concrete and steel infrastructure. So, the way we look at it, you've got the built infrastructure, you've got the natural infrastructure. The more our built infrastructure overloads our natural infrastructure with nutrients, the more our natural infrastructure becomes a liability instead of an asset. And by restoring that natural infrastructure and aligning and sort of harmonizing the balance between the built infrastructure and the natural infrastructure, you can have a far greater nutrient clearing capacity, water treatment capacity in all that infrastructure combined, so that you can use the water and reuse the water over and over.
I got that. Over to you, Mary.
Yeah, I think that's
in the context of this Hands Across America, India, how do you see a Dave playing a role to a Harrington, to a DeYoung, to everybody else that you are looking at?
Yeah, I think they're very excited about India because of those drivers we just mentioned, and also because of the size of India. India is enormous, and so the potential impact, the life-saving aspects, but they're also very willing to lend their IP and their knowledge. What's the beautiful thing about water for all of those in the green world is that the water folks are willing to share their knowledge for free, share their white papers. Everyone wants to see a difference, and so we have found that to be a huge asset in the GlobalWaterWorks community, where people will lend their free events, free best practices, and visibility to solutions which can be tested and proven out. And so the U.S. manufacturers are very excited about the energy that they see. And I think get back to Frank's comment on the action, the World of Water action. We want action. We don't want to have talk. At the same time, we need policies to support. Yeah.
Okay, it's 5 to 7. Mary, if you don't mind, since you have made this the conversation instead of a formal presentation, I thought maybe I'll invite Professor Indrani Pal of the Columbia University. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a lady who is Indian American. If Mary is American, Frank is American. And she has been working on water for at least the last, say, 12, 14 years. I think at this university, she's been around for at least the last, say, 5 to 6 years now. And before that, she was in Germany for a while, and then later in UK at Cambridge. And all along, in all her years, she's only been working at the, at the higher levels of understanding the behavior of water. I mean, to pick on a memorable line, Indrani, that you offered the other day when we were chatting, you said, hell, there is only so much renewable water out there in the stratosphere between the Earth and those 6 or 7 kilometers that we have got. And so it's a zero-sum game. It's either here or somewhere. So there is a drought in one place, there is a flood in another. Now, today, this afternoon, we were talking about seasonality and how we have got more number of rain days in some places. And you know how these precipitation cycles have also dramatically changed. But beyond all that, today, I request you to confine yourself to only one thing, if you don't mind, over the next 3-4 minutes that you can take. My question itself has taken longer, I think. I will put it like this to you, Indrani. If you're sitting there in the United States, a land of the privileged in some ways, and you know the horrors of the underprivileged in this country, and people like Watson Chandra are working, what is it that we can bring as collaboration here? Frank talked about low-cost disruptions on technology that can also be enabled. There is methodology that the American can bring, as I've seen myself. So what is it that this collaboration, this hands across America and India, can mean for India?
First of all, Hari, I love what you're doing. And I am an example who really was born at below poverty level. Some quite a long time ago, right? And who has climbed the ladder of sustainable development. So I can really speak for those and see my community as the gauge to see how much changes and where we have come today since I left home. So long story short, if I have to point out one single thing that I would like to talk about here, it is the untapped potential of academia and the knowledge, which is wealth of information, which is the wealth for us, and how best can we bring in more of them on this platform and work on their behavior changes too. So I really loved, Dr. Hari, how you ask tough questions. And that really provides us a platform to take a step back and think about our actions, our research, and all these privileges that we, and funding and, networks, all that we enjoy, to create knowledge to really teach our next generations about, the value of water. How can we also take a step back or close our eyes to think about how best can we ourselves make available and being flexible to be a part of these conversations and see, how the research could be used, could be leveraged to make differences. And as I told you, I always see my community, the community where I grew up in. I fetched water in a pail, okay, as a child. So my community really got their first, piped water coming to our homes just a few months back, okay? So I see the light. I see that we have come a very long way, okay? I do not see population as, the trouble, but it is our opportunity, right? We can do a lot, and we can really leverage forums such as this to bring in everyone on board. And again, going back to the article, Dr. Raj, and, we have gone through.
Let me ask you this question, very important question for India. Coming from the United States, as you all do, some of you here, and this conversation today is about America, India, not India, America, right? I'm willing to accept that you guys can offer certain things. But let me ask you this, Indrani, as an American Indian and not as an Indian-born citizen out there today. The question is this: do you really, really believe that these 700 million Indian people should be looking for piped water supply with central solutions in a country which has failed us immensely over the last 70 years post-independence. Can we actually have, you heard Gurmit Singh earlier, we have heard many people from industry who are saying, well, the government is doing the right thing. Bhubaneswar got piped water, 100% piped water supply, they say. ADB and World Bank want to give us monies to try and see that we take 24/7 water supply schemes for our cities. Is this the way to go? Or should we go, like Alvin Toffler said in 1970 with Future Shock, that seminal book that he wrote, the poor man died 4 years ago, must have been a very crestfallen person, because all that he wrote at the time happened, even if his intent of writing that was to see that people will learn and not do it, right?
Yes,
So,
yes,
so,
Dr.
so, so, if it is decentral or if it is localist solutions, is that what India needs, and what can America offer? You heard Mary, you heard Frank. They're saying, hey, we will give you point of use filtration systems. Watson Chandra is next to go after you, and then I want to request Niranjan Khatri to speak and Dr. Narasimha. So can you respond quickly on this before we go to Chandra?
Yes, definitely. This is a great question. So we are really talking about our infrastructure, right? Like the centralized way of receiving our water versus really taking in our hands how best can we really save our own lives, our own families, which are really decentralized efforts. So I really see these two as two different solutions and values adding together. So in a country such as our enormous population, sometimes there is a value of regulations and rules too, and there is a value in bringing in centralized efforts and join hands with decentralized efforts. I do see that there are added value to them, accelerating more and more decentralized efforts, but at the same time really work with centralized central agencies to really tweak and change to the extent that we are able to make changes in, because it's not going anywhere and soon, Dr. Hari. We have to live with, like climate change, we have already locked in what's going to happen in the next few decades, right? Or and afterwards, where when we will not be living. So how best can we adapt and really do things at the best we can, keeping both parties on board, accelerate what we see as a great value that the people can adopt, and at the same time keep also working on and not really living like not really getting so much disappointed. But I do see that the value in what you are doing, bringing in both parties together.
Thank you. You're being gracious. Thank you. Chandra, you heard Mary say some 10 minutes ago, her understanding is very clear, and it's right, that India has no access to clean water at any level, in your home and mine, as well as in the home of that poor villager whose police station is probably 20 kilometers away from the settlement, right? So how do you see this? Do you see pipe supply in India to be a pipe dream? Or do you believe that we need to go with local solutions and work our way through this in the next, say, 20, 30 years?
So, provided the technology is foolproof. See, piped solution means whether it takes the load, what type of pipe are we using?
But the question begs for, is it still begging for an answer? So
the problem that's not the way. When the last mile delivery happens, these are given to tenders. Tenders are given to contractors.
Right.
What type of quality control we have on seeing those things happening till the last mile is the most important thing, which doesn't happen sadly in India. Similarly in African countries, there are thousands of solutions, but in the last mile delivery it doesn't happen because there is no quality check in every stage. Second thing I'll tell you, being in manufacturing and having transformed a lot of US drawings into Indian product and working for a US company, making at least 500 different products in India every month and sending to USA just to change the label from made in India to made in USA by that company. there was a problem. I'll tell you, the technical specification says suppose a US brand material, say Lexan for polycarbonate. In India, I get only Bayer's polycarbonate, which is Solidure or something. When I put that, immediately the technical team will say no. Then I have to explain them very clearly. The material, the parent material, the chemical nature of it is same, properties are same. It's only the trademark which is different. Till that, this is a bigger problem, convincing them that the usage of local materials will cut down the cost, will drastically bring down the price. Those type of sense doesn't go to the technical team, which is a huge problem in auto industries. Forget about water. Any industry you go, once the specification says some American nomenclature, people don't think scientifically what is the right material to be used. Maybe like I'll tell you, for India, which has a temperature gradients to -20 to +60, I will not go for nylon or Delrin. I'll go for something like UHMHD. That is ultra high density polyethylene.
Yes.
So I know because the wear and tear will be very good and the temperature gradients will be taking a good knock. But absolutely the technical team will not accept. So this type of defect may throw me out of the job. So the dilemma is something else. If you don't understanding technically the basic core of the product and its utility, this type of collaborations may fail. This is my comment.
Sure, I got that. Ravi, allowed to talk. I have allowed you to talk, Ravi. Since you have raised your hand, I thought I might have you speak. You want to do that? Ask to unmute. I don't know how to do that. Anyway, we'll come back there. Niranjan, will you want to go after Dr. Narasimha Rao, who is a person who is here, is an orthopedic guy. You break your bone, he'll come and fix it. Now, this guy is now going to, he's grinning away. Narasimha Rao is now, he's from Trichy, which is a 1 million population city, 140 square kilometers or so, 20% of Bangalore's size, both in population and area. Can I let him speak and then you will speak, Niranjan, since you are
Please go ahead.
Go on, Narasimha Rao, Dr. Narasimha Rao, who is an orthopedic, wife is also a doctor. They run a practice there. They have a 10-bed nursing home in Trichy, which is one of the ancient cities. It's 3,000 years old. 3,000 years old. For an American, anything over 200 years is non-existent, right? And go on, Narasimha Rao. You have some very interesting thoughts, I know, but please see how you can relate to the context of, American collaborations that can benefit India.
Yeah.
You heard Dave Shackleton and on lakes, for instance, Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I believe I have about 60 seconds or 120 seconds.
3 minutes is fine.
Yeah. So since you mentioned ancient, sir, let me start with that word ancient. So this part of the country, Trichy and Tanjavur, was ruled by a dynasty called Cholas, and their water management was just phenomenal, which is what really inspired me to get into this water management issues. So I think actually I was thinking of requesting Dr. Hari to allow a person who's an expert in this, an epigraphy specialist, who could be given a session to let us know how the Cholas managed water at that time. It was just phenomenal. I think we can have a separate session for that. So it was this inspiration from our ancestral wisdom of water management that drew me into this, water conservation and using water wisely. In spite of the abundance of water that they had at the time, they actually formed a committee to take care of how the water is distributed for various lands, agricultural lands. So from then on, how the water bodies in Trichy were being abused with sewage being let in. So I thought I can't be a mute spectator. So we need to do something about it. So as a surgeon, surgeons believe in doing something rather than talking much. So I was looking at similar options for these water bodies. And we actually showed some change over the last 3 years that we worked on. And the biggest stumbling block for us was the bureaucracy. And why Dr. Hari's approach really impressed me or attracted me was, here the bureaucrats or the government is not necessarily part of the equation. They can be taken in, but they are not necessarily in.
Can I stop you there, since we have another maybe a minute or so? What can we gain from the United States and all these wonderful willing people?
Yes, coming to that. So having connected with Dr. Hari, and this particular topic where how we could work beyond what we already done. what I noticed when we saw the issues faced by people of Trichy was there was a big problem with constraints with regard to the cost and space, to install plants for water treatment or to install adequate water purifiers, and then how they could treat their sewage without letting it contaminate the groundwater. So we're looking at, though I have one in my hospital, how could we get options from technologies or from a country as developed as the US? Can we get options which will have a broad spectrum of applications from the lowest space or the lowest cost to the highest that's available? So if that can be available, because of the work that we have done over the last 3 years, we can rope in quickly people who can adopt options which are most suitable to them respectively.
Great. Dave, Frank, or Mary, anyone can take that.
I'll just jump in quickly. Indrani was actually on just a few moments ago, and we're talking about the mapping of needs and then the catalog, which Frank has of the technologies, to show that. So it's an excellent question. I'll just turn it to Frank. Frank.
Will you? Yes.
I think there's as we've jumped into this in the last session, and right away, I think Dr. Hari, you're the one that said, let's bring in some manufacturing people and see what we can do to begin the manufacturing in India. So
Right.
these are point of use systems. Both John DeYoung and Rodney Harrington were willing participants. Matter of fact, there's a good interview with Rodney Harrington in the community, which was posted yesterday. You could see much more about his technology there. So these are things that we should put on the priority and then begin executing. And we could begin executing with pilots. We can be executing with bringing in manufacturing. We can bring execute with pilots for the HABs. So there's a lot of things that we can do, but everything is available. And like you said, Doctor, you as a surgeon are a doer, and this group here has shown itself to be doers.
Right. Thank you for that. Niranjan Khatri.
We have wonderful people here talking on technology, etc. I'm a non-technologist. So many years back, I realized that the resource scarcity is humongous and you just can't be talking about water. And most of my time I've invested in adding value to teachers and students, because I think we need Trojan horse strategies to disrupt strategies in each home. And many of you have heard this story of mine about small peg, large peg. For those of you who have not heard about small peg, large peg offering, if you start with this small kind of a process of offering small glass, a small peg or large peg, or even going to the extent of, do you want a sip of water? This is what I learned from somebody in Leh. Then we are creating some kind of a storytelling at home itself. And there are diverse kind of stakeholders at home. The parents themselves are a kind of governing body, the children are citizens, and then depending on where the mother or father works, they take these ideas through the learnings at home. And therefore, in order to create scale, I used to conduct a session called Eco-Designing Program for Teachers, but I realized that just covering 1,500 schools in the country is no good. So I developed an eco rating for Delhi government, which is there on the website of my erstwhile company. And perhaps that eco rating needs to be improved, and companies either in India or in America, there are a lot of tech savvy people in both sides of the globe. I can develop some fun apps so that children get to see these fun apps and internalize this and bring about change. Because there's too much talking, and by and large, we're talking to the creamy layer only, and you're not reaching out to the ground level. So that's all I have to say.
To those of you who don't know Niranjan, are hearing him for the first time, in 1989 or 90, he was running a 5-star hotel in a place where there was no water. The Andaman Islands has a small town, very, very small town called Port Blair. And he had to, service his 5-star client with absolutely no water. And he had to manage systems in a way that, well, his management was happy and his customer was too. So that taught him lessons which have stayed with him. I think I met him first maybe 25 years ago, in 97 or 98. And he's been with various industry associations, just as I've been. And the only thing that we both share is the lament. We've been talking of the same thing for years and years. Nobody wants to do anything about it. But you know how, I think it was Václav Havel or somebody who said, now we don't continue to do what we do because it's going to change things, but because it is needed. You know, well, I don't know if there's anyone else I would, Mary, that you want to invite to speak, or it's 7:16. We seem to be well on time. Dr. Narasimha Rao is going to be a person who is launching on January 7th, I think, his mission in Trichy. All of us, Narasimha Rao, count on us. We're all there. Watson, I'll put you onto a water sanitation, Chandra. You ought to change that. You know, people think your name is Watson. So yeah, so we'll see how we can move this. To the rest of you, I have a small announcement to make. This is the 11th lecture series in a sense, but today Mary requested me to try and see that it's not kept formal. She wanted to see that people engage, and she wanted to listen to a diverse set of views and opinions that are coming from America and from here. Thank you, Indrani Pal, for being with us and for sharing those very insightful inflections, shall we say, on how research, how the doers have to depend on researchers and how researchers have to be more tuned to the doers. I think that is the essence of your take today that was presented. I will only say this, there are people, champions like Jeet Kumar Gupta. Unfortunate that I'm not able to have him speak, but there is a session that he wrote an entire book. To all of you, I'm saying, among many books that he's written, he wrote an entire book on water and what urban water supply planning needs to sort of be taking into account as India walks into the next 2 decades of its very precarious challenges, of management of energy and water. J.K. Gupta, namaskar, and apologies that I couldn't allow you to have you. There you are. There you are. You're speaking. Yeah. Okay. We can't hear you, J.K.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hariharan. It was wonderful to hear so talented people, talking on an issue which is so critical and which is so valuable. In fact, water remains the elixir of life. That's what C.V. Raman once said, it remains the elixir of life, and life can't be without water,
Sure.
So I think the entire context is we have to find ways and means how water can be valued, I think water.
Yeah, I got that. I will share your book and I'll invite you to, I'll introduce you to Mary and the other champions from the other side of the globe another day, JK. Thank you for being here, but I think we should sign off. It's 7:19. I know Dr. Prakasham Tata has joined us so late. Maybe we'll give him the last word, the last 60 seconds, Dr. Tata. He's from Chicago. He is another doyen of water management. And even if he's joined us late, I just can't stop myself from inviting him to say some few sage words for this group. Dr. Tata.
I'm so sorry. Last night I went to bed very late because Thanksgiving and all that stuff here. Sorry, Mary. I know I saw your link. Immediately I jumped. I'm still good to see your faces. I don't know what to say because I didn't know the context.
The context is this. Some of you Indians who went and settled down like you some 50 years ago, Raj Ram and many others like you, have your heart lying in India. This is a conversation on how America can join hands with India to see that India's water challenge is, addressed. I won't say mitigated because it's way too large to be mitigated. What would your take be, being an American Indian and not an Indian Indian?
Yeah, and maybe I could just provide that context, Dr. Tata, because you set up the Water and Waste Management Initiative to lend Chicago's knowledge. They have the largest waste treatment facility and all of this expertise to India to engage them.
720, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I said I'm just a single man. Like Mary Eggert, she has grown up now with a lot of soldiers like you. Neither I had the opportunity or the resources to create an organization like Mary Eggert has created to bring like-minded people to a platform. I'm not that marketing savvy, I should say. So I thought the best way to do it is while going to India, I made it a mission. In other words, World Water Day, I started doing that celebration deliberately after my retirement from 2003. Even before that, telling about water and so forth with these school children, because I cannot change the adults in India. That's what I thought of, the time limited I have. So I started that way. And secondly, I found the best way for me to even to do something, projects to demonstrate that a guy like me, without any resources, can do things. I joined the Rotary International. Because Rotary International, anything you do, you need the passion and the commitment to do the thing. And third, financial resources. If you don't have, if you're just too much lecturing, and I'm sick of it, because I did it throughout my life, telling people as a professor and this and that, adjunct professor. I'm not a full-time professor anytime, but I'm really adjunct professor, things like that. So having said that, I thought if I gave my $1 or 1 rupee, it has the opportunity of becoming $3, okay? Or 3 rupees in Indian context.
Yeah.
Through Rotary. Particularly when you write projects with a good heart and the need is there. That is the other thing. The third thing I did was when the project is done, you want to make it that it's successful. So before even start the project, I heard the last words like education. I was holding hands in India with people, educated, uneducated, and anybody in between, to tell them that it is for them I'm doing, not for me. Because when I turn my tap here in the United States, in my home in Naperville, hot and cold water comes simultaneously, whatever I want to do, and wherever I want to do. There is not the case. Okay. So holding hands with the people, particularly the women, the adult women in the villages, that's where my heart was. Then when I go to India, I'm going to do that again. I just booked my ticket on January 12th. Be there for Bogi.
By the way, he spent his early years. When he was 25 or 26, he lived in Bengal, in some district out there. He speaks Bengali even now, though he's from Vijayanagar.
I was 19 at the time. And as I said, 19. One big thing changed my mind. I mean, you are going to do projects. Before you do the project, you first of all find out whether it's really needed by them or not. Because I went there to build septic tanks at the age of 19 with a master's degree in my pocket. This tall American changed my life. Okay. And he said, what 25 years from now, the whole world will be talking about it.
Dr. Tata, we do not have the time for this wonderful, fascinating story that I know you have. With that full crop of hair, no one of you will ever suspect that he is all of 82 years old, right?
86. Good, sir. You can celebrate my birthday, 86.
86.
86 on January 5th.
Happy birthday to you a little earlier. Fantastic. Look at his crop of hair. And we will get him to speak. Mary, if you don't mind, someday in some forum or the other, we must get Dr. Tata to tell us his more powerful story, which is more inspirational and not as much, into strategy and all these things. Jeet Kumar Gupta is from Chandigarh, which is again a city of 1 million population, like Trichy. And J.K. Gupta told me, I think 8 or 9 months ago, I was so touched by how he wrote it. He said, please give me the honor and the privilege or some such thing of having VOW being also moved to Chandigarh, he said. And, we haven't been able to take that up, but with thanks to all this growing base of leaders that we have got today, I'm encouraged to think that after Dr. Narasimha Rao from Trichy, does what he will do, we will move to Chandigarh. Chandigarh is a fantastic city, and there is a powerful story, a very, very wonderful story that our Jeet Kumar Gupta will recount another day. We'll get him some forums or the other. There's so many wonderful, inspirational people. That's a nice. Well, it's 7:25. I don't think all good things, all fantastic things have to end, and therefore we will end it here, I suppose. I'm not so sure if we actually got to, sort of stitching together a story of how America and India can work together. I think that'll happen more in the deed than in words, and over time and with more interactions of this kind. And, to have, more leaders like Indrani coming in and more such people. Today, I'm seeing many more new people who have come into this conversation. I think that will make the difference. I said it just now. Somebody said it's this constant engagement. Mary, this is your last maybe 3 sentences for you to close this and set the tone for what you believe was the theme of this conversation.
Yes, I just see Indrani just raised her hand. I just want to defer
Okay,
to her.
okay, go on. Yes.
Indrani?
I will hold that off for maybe next time. Thank you.
Go on.
Oh, well, Indrani, Dr. Tata, when did you have?
I just want to, because, you know, I'm so sorry. I apologize for joining late. And I would like to talk to each one of you. I mean, anybody who is lasting till the end of the conversation, they have the passion to do it, or they are the organizers.
You know, yeah.
Excuse me.
Actually, sorry, Dr. Tata, I was only to add that I don't mind continuing this conversation for another 5-10 minutes if you all love it. I was getting a little apologetic because it shouldn't be beyond whatever you believe is a timeline.
My small request, Hari, is if you put each one of these gentlemen or ladies contact our WhatsApp number, I would like to personally talk to them.
Oh, I'll do that. I heard you earlier.
Please put in the chat box. Frank Slovenik, I see his name all the time, along with Mary. I've never had the opportunity to talk with Frank. So I would like to chat with him because these are the zealous individuals with a purpose, you know.
Yeah.
I just would like to know them personally.
Yeah. Or David Shackleton from South Africa. You know, he's only 4.5 hours from me and 6 hours from you. Ahead both ways.
David, please leave your time. I will personally.
No, we will ensure that is done offline, not here on the chat box. Mary will do that.
Not here. You know, maybe you can send me separately or put in the chat box and the recording.
That's right. That's right. Anybody else who wants?
Yes. Yes. Well, I just thank you so much, Dr. Hari, because what we see as possible is only possible when we all work together. And there is a suite of solutions. We've heard from Dr. Chandra, or from Chandra, and from our doctor in the South, and also Nanda Kumar, and our head of plumbing. That we have Gurmit. We have solutions for everyone. It's a matter of communicating and connecting and focusing on action steps. And I think once we connect people with their water, we show them the intelligent means to use water with all of the solutions that Frank has detailed in our database, and then collaborate and share these lessons in the community. Suddenly, everyone who has a problem can find a solution, can be smarter about water, more efficient, and together we can address those sustainable needs and save the lives in India, which is the most important thing. So it's always a pleasure. You do such a great job engaging so many people. I wanted to have that chance to have a conversation and bring everyone in. So thank you so much.
Right. In fact, you know, Mary, Niranjan Khatri also says somewhat the same things that you said just now, that it is constant engagement. It's like somebody wrote, Harold Jain, I think wrote, you know, management is like driving fresh snow every morning. You keep driving it, it keeps coming back. You drive it again and you continue to do it, right? And well, these sessions are somewhat like that. I'm very deeply appreciative of people like Jeet Kumar Gupta, who spent, like Dr. Radha said, your commitment is about, you know, how long are you going to outstay me on this program sort of thing, you know? So he is another remarkable person. I'll connect you to him and to the world of, you know, excellent, very, very constructive and, you know, what shall I say, focused writings that he has brought on urban planning and master planning. He has some lovely stories on Chandigarh another day. We'll keep that forward. Thanks again to all of you for being here today. I was looking forward to this for at least the last month and a half, I think. Thanks to the entire team at PJMT. Yatin, if you can unmute and say hello to the rest of us here. I think Jain is not here today.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Yatin. Thank you
for over here. Yeah.
Right, and thank you for for all the multiple coordination that you have done. And to all of you, let me tell you what we are going to do in December. I think it's on the 18th of December or some such thing, and we will post you with the details. We are getting all the key speakers of the 11 sessions of the Distinguished Lecture Series. Each time we had a speaker and a special address from somebody or the other. And therefore, we are likely to have about 20 such people who will join. And what we are doing is offering each of them only about 2 minutes or 3 minutes to see what they would want to offer as a roadmap for what we can do in 2022. Not to intellectualize, not to give us, grand visions on what, the world should be doing, but to give us maybe 3-4 points on what we can do together and not as individuals alone in 2022. Look forward to meeting you all there in that session too, from other things that are popping up into the weeks to come. Thanks, Chandra, also for being here. Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye.
All right. Bye. Thank you,
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Tata. Thank you. Good morning to you all.